Hi, this is Curt and welcome to another edition of Fire Law Roundup. All right, well, let's move on to the next one because we've got quite a few interesting cases this week. So, boy, this next one is a tough one. It's not the only suicide case that is currently pending with regard to a fire department employee. This one's a little bit different, but we're out in California, the South Placer Fire District, and we've got a kid who apparently was a Marine veteran, and his dad had been a mechanic in this fire department. He in turn became a mechanic in the fire department. The allegations are, and again, I don't think, we don't have a copy of the complaint. So again, we're going secondhand based on what the news media has told us. But the allegations are that there was a known problem employee, as quoted from the newspaper, known problem employee who had been harassing this kid. It led to him committing suicide, and he committed suicide on fire department property outside of one of their fire stations. Really kind of tragic.
On video.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
I thought it was on watching the news clip.
Oh, there was something I didn't. Go ahead.
My understanding was that it was caught on a surveillance video and then the video was erased.
You know, I saw that and I wasn't sure exactly. I hadn't pieced it together. Your law enforcement perspective on it, I think, is absolutely correct. I wasn't thinking of it as a surveillance video. I wasn't really sure how it fit in, but bottom line is the kid is dead. The family is suing the department for wrongful death and for not reeling this particular gentleman who's doing the harassing in. So, tragic. And I've got two other cases that are still out there pending. Both of those suicides involve female firefighters. So we're still waiting on settlements, either settlements or trials on both of those. So this is the third one that we've got where there's a wrongful death suit involving some sort of harassment directed toward an employee.
Well, we had a suicide years ago in my firehouse, a young woman.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
she was not, to my knowledge, she was not being harassed. She was a very outgoing individual, one of these bubbly, for lack of a better term, type of personalities. And everybody was just completely dumbfounded by it. She was into the training. She loved going to the fire training center. Mm-hmm. I have no answers. And if anybody else has them, I'm not aware of it. But it's so incredibly. I'm sorry, Curt.
No, it's a difficult thing, and Bill, I don't know if I had shared this with you, but I've gone back to school. I've been studying forensic psychology, which I really think they ought to incorporate a lot of that training into law school. So much of it crosses, in terms of intent, understanding intent, and the capacity to confess, and mental states, and knowledge about people's recollection and eyewitness testimony. We cover all of that type of thing, but we do dabble a little bit into the sort of substantive psychology as well. And the problem with suicide, there are many several personality disorders that folks are prone to an early demise through suicide. And you just don't know. You just don't know. People hide things from other people, and you might not see that something that could be a tell, but sometimes it's a very difficult area.
This is so incredibly sad. I mean, this is such a young fella. Had served his country in the Marine Corps, had his whole life ahead of him. What was going on there? In my time in the police department, we had several. In fact, just a couple of months ago, one of the fellows that I worked with, he was retired. He shot himself in the backyard, and nobody knows why.
I think law enforcement suicide rate is a little higher.
It's higher. It is.
I
It
think
is.
Yeah.
But, and this kind of ties back to the age discrimination case that we touched on before. We had a fella come into my job, well, my former job. I still call it my job. I think he was 40 at the time, similar to this. Maybe he was a little less, or 35 or 40. And we teased him. We broke his horns, but it was a different time. And you just can't do that anymore.
It's
the supervisors, the administration has to be so in tune to proper procedures and screening. And it makes me wonder, if you went back to the beginning and you looked through the application and you looked at the investigation that was conducted when the individual came on the job, and the police backgrounds are far more thorough than the fire backgrounds, at least in my experience.
No, they are. No doubt. No doubt.
Was there something there? But the flip side to that is, again, when I was in the police department, we had a young fella, second generation, maybe even a third generation cop. His brothers were cops, and he killed himself. And very, very sad. Young guy, had the world by the sneakers, so to speak. And they had brought in a grief counselor, and this really rubbed me the wrong way. And he asked, well, who can tell me about so-and-so? And for whatever reason, he pointed at me, and I said, well, this is what I recall of him. He's brand new, 21 years old, new car, different girl every week, maybe every 2 weeks, blah, blah. He was living a life of Riley. And the counselor turned around, he goes, well, then this is your fault. Excuse me? How is this my fault? And he's like, well, those are warning signs, blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, and I know there are warning signs, but you need to make people in charge aware of what those signs are. Are your supervisors trained to look for these things?
Yeah. Well, I think the warning signs for people with different types of personality disorders are going to be entirely different. So what's going to cause a narcissist to commit suicide versus what's going to cause a borderline to commit suicide are going to be entirely different. So that's right. Throw that one right out the window.
But in the police job and the fire job, you have to be successful at it. You have to be so good at so many different things.
Yeah.
You are chief cook and bottle washer. You're not a trained psychotherapist. You're not a this, you're not a that. You're a firefighter. You're a fire supervisor. You're a fire chief. You're a commissioner. But what's being done to, educate those people in at least some rudimentaries as to what to look for? You don't have to walk out of it with a PhD, but there's got to be something we can do better. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think there is. I think there is. And one of the things here, at least an allegation here, is that he was being harassed, and the department knew he was being harassed, and failed to do anything about it. So again, these are allegations. Who knows if they're true or not? Sometimes when people suffer a loss, they're looking for someone to blame or some sort of way to rationalize what happened. And maybe there's some substance to them, maybe there's not. We don't know, but certainly harassment of someone seems to be a consistent theme with many of the suicides that we see. Not everyone, certainly, but of many of them. The reason I was asking, you said the female, both of the cases that I'm tracking involved the female who committed suicide, who was married to a firefighter in the same organization.
Wow.
And so not that that's a risk factor. I don't mean to suggest it's a risk factor, but it is, a fact pattern that, maybe it puts a little bit more pressure on her. And maybe she's a little bit more concerned, and that can add to the stress level that, who knows? I don't know, but I just thought it was concerning. But certainly this is, difficult case.